Ecclesiastes is a book of poetry in the Old Testament. Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is a Hebrew word meaning assembly, or the one who talks to an assembly. So many times it is translated preacher or the preacher. I guess I am Ecclesiastes. I'm the preacher up here. But that is Solomon is who wrote this book, and he refers to himself as the preacher. And this is a culmination of what Solomon has thought of in his life. And there's a tremendous amount of wisdom in here, but it all boils down to one thought, and we'll get to that. Ecclesiastes. When you start in chapter 1, verse 1, there's 12 chapters. We're going to hit it all. We won't read every verse, but we're going to get through there. I don't want to be too harsh on somebody who would make this a Bible study with one chapter a week. That's a lot of weeks to go, a lot of months to go till you get to the good stuff. And the good stuff is at the end of the book. And really the good stuff is the last two verses of this book. And I couldn't personally go through this for 4 months, 3 months, or even a month without getting to the good stuff. And I could not let you leave here today without getting to the good stuff. And so we are going to get to the good stuff. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Who's the son of David, king in Jerusalem? Solomon. He was the last king of Israel. True king of Israel, because of then it was divided. So we have Solomon here. Chapter 1, verse 2. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. You might have heard that, but that is, he is just saying everything is meaningless. Everything is pointless. Boy, that's an interesting thought. But you didn't hear that. I heard, and I was going to preach on Ecclesiastes, and it's amazing. I haven't heard anything about Ecclesiastes in a year. Then I'm going to preach on Ecclesiastes, and I haven't looked it up, I haven't researched it online. Across comes this video, and it's a real, actually, as I get to know the guy, I had seen him as a comedian before, but he's a comedian, a Christian comedian, a clean comedian. And wouldn't you know, for some reason, across comes his testimony. And he says he was a drunk, he's an alcoholic, very cynical, as a lot of comedians are. They're very witty and very quick-witted. And he was. And he says, you know what led me to Christ? The book of Ecclesiastes. Pastor Tommy Nelson had a tape, and he listened to it. His wife made him listen to it on a study of Ecclesiastes. He said he opened up the book and said, vanity of vanities, said the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Everything in life is pointless and meaningless. And he said in his period in his life, he said that's in the Bible? You mean the Bible acknowledges that? Absolutely. And he said through that study of Ecclesiastes, he found Christ. Some people think that's hard to believe. I don't find it hard to believe at all. Not at all. I'll get to the way I go about it here. But that's the point. Verse 3, what profit hath a man of all his labor which he takes under the sun? Everything's pointless. There is no point in life. And wouldn't you know, weirdly enough, after that, somebody sent me an email telling me that their church is going through a study of Ecclesiastes. I thought, well, second thing. And then, what do you know, somebody else sent me a letter. And they gave me the passage in Ecclesiastes 3. There's a time for everything. Time to plant, time to harvest, you know. Those are good words to live by, good thoughts to thought. Very philosophical book here. I have no doubt it's my purpose to preach it today. I'll do the best I can. Because everything is pointless. There is no point to life. You work hard, then you die. That's what verse 3 says. What profit, what good is your life because you're going to work hard and you can't take it with you? Why? I mean, really, what is the point? What is the purpose of life? One generation passes away and another generation comes. The earth is the same. The sun's going to come up, the sun's going to go down. He literally says that. Literally, in the next verse. Verse 5, the sun also rises, the sun goes down, and it just keeps going. You're going to just be born and die, and there's going to be other people born and die. In 100 years, you're going to be dead, but there's going to be people being born and dying, and what's in the world is the point to your little feeble life. You know how people, and I said last week, they curl up into a dysfunctional little ball when a loved one dies. And I don't get it. But I ponder that. And this is a very crude thought. Not like crude, like rude, but just rudimentary, primitive thought that I haven't really spent a lot of time on. But I just think, they have so much love for that one person. And they think it's because it was their father or mother, and they didn't even know their grandpa or grandma. They're dead. They didn't get dysfunctional when they died. I think I didn't even really essentially have any grandparents growing up. So I had no idea who my great grandpa was. All our ancestors have died, but I had no love for them. No love lost, no mourning and grief over those that have died already. Just the people that I lose. Most of grief is because I'm losing that person. And you're kind of grieving for yourself. Even grief is a selfishness. Do you even know who your great-grandpa was? He was born, probably lived life and died. Got so much love for this one dead person, but you've got a lot of dead people up your family tree, your genealogy. How about all of them? How about your heirs, great-grandchildren? Are they going to mourn for you? You'll be forgotten and unloved just as much as your great-grandpa is. Who is your great-grandpa? You'll be just as forgotten as he is. You're going to fall, and all we can really muster is we think we're doing an honor of somebody when we keep their memory alive as long as we can, which is probably only going to amount to 40, 50 years. Then forgotten and past. I mean, if you boil it down, that's what we're doing. That's what our life amounts. Our life is but a vapor. James says that. Here today, gone tomorrow. My children won't know anything of their great-great-grandparents. When I die, the last memories of my grandpa, such as it is, what little I remember him, is dead with me. My great-grandchildren won't know nothing about me. Not to any magnitude. Our memories are but vapors on this earth. Solomon realized that, and it sunk in and it kind of bothered him. You can tell for the next 6 chapters here in Ecclesiastes. He goes on about it. Verse 9, he says, the thing that hath been, it is what shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. You say, well, we have all kinds of new inventions and tech. Yeah, to what end? To what accomplishment? Are we happier today with our iPhones and Teslas than they were 60 years ago? I mean, what did it accomplish? There's nothing new under the sun. All it is feeble attempts to have more contentment in life, and it's an utter failure. It changed life, but it's just another new fad and has no permanent effect on anyone's life. And we're all going to die someday, just as everybody in the past died before. You have, how long will Teslas and iPhones be a thing? 50 years, it's going to be something else. Look at verse 16 and 18. I communed with my own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to great estate, and I've gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and of knowledge. And I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit, for much wisdom is much grief, and he that increases knowledge increases sorrow. I might be enlightening somebody today to some philosophical truth, that life is meaningless and pointless. And that's going to vex you. The knowledge, knowing how worthless your life is going to vex you. We think today, and I cannot believe, and it boggles my mind, how much value that people place on a college degree just to have it. Just because you have, they just want to get one. You know how many, I don't know personally, many people, a few, but I don't know a whole lot of people who are even in the field of their college degree. I know people with criminology degrees selling insurance. I know people with ag degrees being a banker. I know people with, they was watching a little reality show about cowboys last night. Guy's got a engineering degree, but he just wants to be a cowboy. So he's out cowboying with his 6-year engineering degree. But he gets to brag about his engineering degree. He's got a paper on the wall that says he knows this. But did it make him happy? No, he's pursuing cowboying now to try to make him happy. Solomon says that too. I've done everything from one fad to the next. I cannot find fulfillment. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increases knowledge increases sorrow. That's just another way I found out that wasn't going to fulfill me, Solomon said. So they tell children, young people, you better get a college degree that's going to unlock a world of hope for you. Maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was a little bit closer to truth. Not so much just now. It just unlocks debt to you. But it's no guarantee of success. There is no guarantee of success. Now, if you know what you're going to do, and I encourage you to find out, figure out, be educated on that which you know you're going to do. But just to have a degree, it's not going to fulfill you. There are places for you to get educated if education is what you need. But don't make the mistake of thinking being educated is going to make you happy. Because it's not. No, knowledge is not the answer to the pointlessness of life. You know who some of the smartest people in school were? I went to school for 7th grade and then I started homeschooling, but I'm not antisocial. I know people. And you know, like in high school, I suppose a lot of y'all old fogies even had this, but there's nothing new under the sun. And I tell you how it is right now. I tell you how it was when I was a kid, and I know how it was probably when you were a kid. You had the popular kids, social cliques. You had the jocks. And then you had some of the rougher around the edges kids. And you know, over in the corner, you might have had that one. They call them emos now, the emotional types, the ones that kind of almost look. You almost could describe them as depressed all the time. Then you had the nerds. They were the smart ones. You had the chess club. I don't know where you fell under that. You know who some of the smartest kids in school were? And I thought it then. I didn't care for school because I thought, a lot of it was pointless and we were wasting a lot of time there, filler. But I was the smartest kid in school. And so that was the reputation I had. It was easy to me. I didn't try. It was just easy. So that was what I was. So I'm off the picture when I tell you who I think, even then, who I thought the smartest kids were. And you could tell that they could do it if they wanted to, they just didn't care. It was the emos sitting inside. Because they already had an understanding how pointless a lot of this stuff was. They already had that figured out. And I didn't think they had a fair shake, and I'm even more convinced of it, because they who were sitting back there questioning a lot and asking a lot of good questions, but the teachers just felt the need to drug them, The hyper kids got drugged down. The depressed kids, you give them antidepressants, because how dare they start questioning life, How dare they question that this great educational institution, and I believe you need to be educated, I believe in knowing stuff, but how dare you question the fundamental need for this, or what we're trying to tell you and indoctrinate you with. They had things figured out way early. They already had things, and they were really some of the most smartest people, because they had it figured out in high school what Solomon's writing about right now. You know, you think all this school is going to bring me joy? They look at the jocks and they say, out there chasing a football, how much joy really is that going to last? Is that going to last something? And you see the cheerleaders floating around, they can't find joy in that. And they're sitting on the side, they see the nerds over there, can't find joy in that. I mean, really, is that going to fulfill them for the rest of their life? They look around and they think in 15 years, all these people who claim to be best friends, they're not even going to be in touch with each other. Skinny girl's going to be ugly, and a jock boy's going to be a washed-up alcoholic. And they're probably right, and that's what they're thinking. Because they're going to find out that that's not what's going to fulfill them. They're sitting back there thinking that. Well, that's what Solomon's saying. And there's a lot of truth to that. Nerd boy over there is not going to find fulfillment in his education. And it's just true. You know, the other kid, I don't say this braggadocious or pridefully at all. Schooling came easy to me. I heard it once, I picked up on it. I can't say that so much now, but it was then. And if I could repeat, I didn't study, I didn't do it, I just done the work. And there's another kid. He was defined by his intelligence. He was smart, but he worked hard at it. That's what defined him. He went to college. It was going to be something great. And then all the other smart kids from all the other schools got there, and he realized he really wasn't that special. You know what? It ruined him. It ruined him. Because that which he could define himself in high school, found out how pointless and unfulfilling it truly is. Depressing, ain't it? Chapter 2. This is chapter 1. I said in my heart, go to now, I'll prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. He says, okay, fine. I can't find my joy in my knowledge. I'll just go out and have fun. I'll go out and build luxurious gardens. I will have all the women I want. And he did. Solomon did. Like 1,000 that was convoke virgins to himself. I'll have all the women I want. I'll dress in the way I want. We're going to have beautiful hanging gardens. We're going to import all the goods from everywhere on earth that are nice. I want to have it. I'm going to enjoy life. If this life is going to be stupid and meaningless, I'm going to at least enjoy my stupid, meaningless life. And he says, even in that I couldn't find joy and fulfillment. I said in my heart, go to now, I'll prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it's mad, and of mirth, what does it? I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. And anything that anybody found joy in, I took part in it, to try to find joy in it myself. I made me great works. I built me houses, I built me vineyards, I made me gardens and orchards, and I planted trees, and them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water to water therewith the wood that brings forth the trees. Some of the greatest gardens the world's ever seen he built, and I gave me servants and maidens and servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered silver, gold, procured everything, on and on and on. And in verse 11, the 10, he says, whatsoever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy. Verse 11, and I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was pointless. In vexation of spirit. I'd go to bed, and the next day, I'd have to do it again to find that temporary high of fulfillment. And there was no profit under the sun. Verse 16. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than the fool forever, seeing that which now is in the days to come shall all be forgotten, and how dies the wise man? How dies the wise man? The wise man is the same dead as the foolish man is. Here, listen to, okay, let's play a little game. Tell me if they died a fool or died wise. Humphrey Newton. Anybody who know who Humphrey Newton was? Was he a wise or a fool? Yeah, you don't know. He was, just a random guy I picked out. He was Isaac Newton's assistant. I think he probably was a pretty smart fella. He probably died a wise man, but he's dead and you don't even know. How about Bible John, fool or wise? Who says fool? Raise your hand. Who says wise? Raise your hand. Who doesn't want to say, because you don't want to be put on the spot? Don't raise your hand. Bible John, he was a serial killer in Glasgow, Scotland in the 1960s. You don't know him. How are you going to be remembered? You're not. That's what Solomon's saying. I'm not trying to be, but reality is you ain't. All your labor is going to be wasted. Think of, this is off. This is what you call extemporaneous speaking. Do not write this down. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth right now. There's a thought. We worked. We had a blessing. We had more corn than we know what to do with. So we borrowed in the neighbors. And actually, just a little bit of an overflow. Not more than we know what to do with, just more than we were expecting for how we managed it. So we had to put it in our neighbor's bin. You go to that neighbor's house, and you see how it was 10 years ago. You see how it was 20 years ago. And you go down and you see all this hard work and I don't even think of who owns it now. I think of the man that built that, who's long dead. And what he worked so hard for is now going downhill quickly. And I think, boy, if I had this, I'd at least maintain it. But it's not mine to have. It's not mine to worry about. There's no point in me maintaining it for somebody else to trash in 20 years. And that breaks my heart. But I see this place that I know the guy who's already dead. Then his widow lived in the house. And he had his farm. And I just think as a young man, he built this. He had his ground out back. And I think he probably was so proud of this bin that is now, I'm calling a piece of junk. Frustrated. Because it was not maintained. It was not cared about. And I think that man, he probably felt the same joy building that little 10,000 bushel bin that I have on my 60,000 bushel bin. And I go down and I look at that wagon that they asked me to clean out because it's a piece of junk. And they let it go downhill and it wasn't maintained. They want me to take care of it, and I did. And I think he probably had just as much joy when he purchased that as I do. Our upgraded auger cart or whatever. Now that guy's dead, and it's left to some guy that he never knows go down there and try to salvage how it's been let go. In his house, his widow has now moved to town, and in his house, I don't want to be too hard on people. Let's just say the house is going downhill quickly. The house he built and was so proud of. Now where's your stuff going to be in 50 years when you're dead? Rent it out to the highest bidder to let go. I did not know a house could reduce in value so fast. I'll say it that way. It's a shame because I've seen the widow lady there. I go into that house and make sure she's alive after the derecho. Now she's gone and her house is build all this stuff. And what are you building it for? All your hard work. Why? Where's it going to be in 50 years? That's not me talking as much as it's Solomon talking. And but it is a pretty good question. All your labor is wasted. I said that, and I've addressed what I would call acute depression. We all get a little depressed. Wore out, and first thing you need to do if you start finding yourself depressed is you need to take a break. eat something, and sleep. We learned that with Elijah. Elijah got depressed up to suicidal almost. So just wanting to die. Not that he's going to kill himself, but he was just tired of living. And what did he do? God said, get to the cave. I'll send you some meat with some ravens. And he had a good meal, and he slept for like 3 days. That's the first thing you do if you start finding yourself going down here in despair. But here we see what you do on, and this is addressing something a little bit more than the acute depression, being hangry. You know, this is like chronic depression, or what some people might call clinical depression. This is philosophically based depression, and it can't be cured by eating or sleeping. But you know what? It's just a stupid trying to fix a spiritual problem with a pill. And I know people won't like to hear that. They say, well, chemical imbalances in your brain. Trying to fix, I encourage everybody, if you're on antidepressants, I encourage you to do whatever you can to get off of them. I don't trust them. I've done too many funerals for suicide victims that were on antidepressants. I've done too many funerals for suicide people that just get put on an antidepressant. Antidepressant, get put on them 2 weeks later, suicide. I don't trust them. I hope that doesn't hurt people's feelings too much, but I don't trust them. It just seems wrong to me when a side effect of an antidepressant is suicidal thoughts. May cause rectal bleeding and suicide. That's enough for me to say no. I'm going to doubt that. Not only that, we force it on the children and kids. You know what? Teenagers are supposed to be emotional, hormonal. That's when they're supposed to learn how to deal with it. You don't drug them. Now, there might be instances where they need a little bit of assistance. They're very, very unique circumstances. But by and far, you don't just drug them. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Solomon said, and I hated my labor. Verse 18 in chapter 2. Which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it into the man that shall be after me. He said, all this, I'm just going to leave it to an heir. Then he says, who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor, wherein I have labored, or wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This also is vanity. He says, I'm going to give this all to an heir. And I don't even know if that guy's going to be a fool or wise. I know a man who inherited millions and millions dollars worth of stuff. He was in the bar, I wasn't there, but I was told, saying, I can't lose enough money to go broke. I cannot spend as much money as I was given. Fast forward about 15 years, and the guy's called major insurance fraud because he, having millions, needs more. Apparently, having millions given to you is not quite as fulfilling as all of us middle-class people think it might be. You know? He wasn't fulfilled. He had to scam in order to get more. When he is, and it's a farmer. Some of y'all might know him. Probably not. I mean, there might be one or two out there that might suspect they know who I'm talking about. He's not in Tama County, so don't be fretting. I'm not but he is what a lot of farmers would have loved to have had. Land, machinery, new equipment, shiny paint, nice stuff, you know. I don't know him real good. I have no problems with him. Nothing personal. I wish the best for him. Hate to use him as an example, but to say, money and having is not a fulfillment either. Not having the cash in your drawer under a bed. Not having all the great things you can buy and accumulate. Apparently, it's not fulfilling. the divorces that rich people go through. Apparently it's just not as fulfilling. Tom Brady and Gazelle. I just see it written. I'm not sure how her name is, but supermodel Gazelle or Giselle and Tom Brady split it. Marriage problems amongst these rich people. Rich must not buy happiness. Solomon says, and then why? Why should I build it? I'm going to give it to a son that's not going to care about it. I could point you to a guy right now, businessman that I admire. And his son's worthless. I don't know who's going to take over that family business. He was so busy building his empire, he forgot to instill that value of that empire into his own offspring. It's all pointless anyways, Solomon says. Look at chapter 4 now. Turn over there. We'll speed here through. He's done all this. All this that I see, and I think to myself, Solomon knew a long time ago. There's nothing new under the sun. Solomon wrote chapter 4, verse 2. Wherefore I praise the dead which are already dead more than the living which are yet alive. Now I think Ecclesiastes is something he wrote at the culmination of his life. But looking back, that sounds like a guy almost suicidal. Depressed to the point of wishing he was dead. Now it's not a sin to be depressed to the point where you just wish you were dead. Elijah was that way, Job was that way, apparently Solomon was that way. You might call that being suicidal, but the point is that he said it's better to be dead than it is to be alive. Then in chapter 7, we see, that's how discouraged Solomon is. Chapter 7, we see a little bit of a tone change here. It's not much, but it's there. Still in chapter 7, verse 1, he is praising death. He is looking, and not in a way that I look forward to dying and going to heaven. That's not the way he's praising it. He says, well, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of your death is better than the day of your birth. Celebrate something. Celebrate looking forward to the day you die, not to your birthday. He says in chapter 2, and this is the tone shift. And he's making a real good point here. And he says, verse 2 of chapter 7, it's better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. He says it's better for you to go to a funeral than it is for you to go to a feast. It's better for you to have time spent at a funeral than it is for you to go to the Golden Corral, all-you-can-eat buffet. Why? He says you'll learn more, somber you up, and make you a whole lot more solemn if you go to a funeral. Make you think about all the right things than if you go to a feast. But he's still praising death and thinking fondly upon funerals. Verse 3, sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of the countenance the heart is made better. I think there's a lot of truth in that. We've probably grown more and had to face harder questions that needed answering in our lives when we were mourning and sorrowful than when we're happy and blessed. You want patience, and God just might help you learn it by giving you sorrow. That's the idea. This is almost here, for reading the next 2 chapters, almost just like reading a proverb. Solomon wrote the Proverbs, It's almost just like reading one of his Proverbs. You can go on, and you can read all of it. Same with 8. This is application time. And he applies it, and he starts talking practicality and application. Then we get to 9, chapter 9 here. And this is where the real tone change occurs. Chapter 9, verse 1. I'll tell you, I'm getting myself depressed. I better change the tone here. But it's real. For all this I considered in my heart even to declare all this. And so I'm going to say the same thing to you today. that he just said here. What he's saying, and what I'm saying to you, is I have said all of this. I have gone to great extent talking about how depressing and disparaging life is. I've contemplated all this. I've thought about all this. I've shoved this down your throat this morning just so I can say this. Verse 1, that the righteous and the wise in their works are in the hand of God. Amen. No man knows either love or hatred by all that is before them. All things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean and to the unclean, to him that sacrifices, to him that sacrifices not, as is the good, so is the sinner, and he that swears, as he that fears an oath. It does not matter how good or how bad, you will stand before God one day. There is an evil among all things that are done under the sun, and there is one event unto all. Yea, also the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live, and after they go to the dead. For to him that is joined to all living there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they shall die. Everyone is going to die and stand before God. For it is appointed, and we had a whole sermon on it last week. For it is appointed to man once to die, and after this the judgment. He says, and there's one big, huge thing that it all led back to me to say. It is all coming back to standing before God. We will all die and stand before God. Here's what I thought was so wonderful. He starts now coming to a conclusion with all that his life has taught him. Now, apparently, he was a very deep thinker. And he said, I said all these things, pondered all these things to get to this point. Everyone is in God's hands. That's a good point. I used to think that the last two verses of this book are the best. And I still think that way. But there's another verse here that I think is exceptional. That is stupendous. I didn't really even know it existed, even though I've preached it. This is a great verse here. Verse 4. And the reason verse 4 is so great, he has just made how pointless. He's made a very good case for how pointless life is for the most of this book so far. And then he gets to the point in chapter 9 that God is the final judge. And then verse 4. So then, whether good or evil, as long as you are alive, there is hope. As long as you are alive, there is hope. Hope! I didn't even know this verse existed. But I said in the past, I have said, this cure for suicide. If any of you are ever faced with a suicidal person, the cure is hope. You give that person hope. Now, obviously, I want to give them the hope of Jesus Christ. Permanent hope. Real hope, genuine hope. But even generically speaking, if you are counseling somebody that wants to jump off a bridge or shoot themselves in the head, if you can give that person hope, you'll stop that. I believe that a person who's truly suicidal, you have the ones that say they're going to do it, they want that attention. Then you have the ones that just do it. That's the scary ones, the ones that don't tell you about it. But if you ever get somebody who's truly that way, before you and you realize it before they do the deed, you give them hope, some kind of hope. Obviously, Christ is the real hope. But for that person, give them hope. I tell you, I've seen 4 or 5 young men kill themselves because they never had hope. They thought that their wife or their woman or their girlfriend was taking their child away from them forever. And the hopelessness comes there, and Satan fans the flames of hopelessness. And then the thought that they'll never see their baby again, they kill themselves. Well, in that instance, give them hope that there's plenty of time. You're going to have a relationship with your child. That might be enough hope for them to hang on. But in the big, grand scheme of things, the only hope that is a permanent is Christ. But they need hope. Solomon says, while a person is alive, there is hope. As long as you're alive, there's hope. For many people, it's a taboo subject. They don't like talking about it. I mean, Somebody does it, you sure don't say it in their obituary. I mean, you just don't say it. But you know what? You want to talk controversial, I'll say something controversial. More people need to come to the point of suicide. Say, how dare you say that? You can't say that. Sure I can. What do evangelists ask people to do? We ask them to trade their old life away for a new one. I want people to get tired of this pointless, worthless life that they're living and trade it in for one that Christ will give them. That's what I want. You send the suicidal people to me because they finally started thinking about their life, realize how pointless it is, realize how hopeless it is, and that person is ready to hear that there is a hope named Jesus Christ. That person is ready. They have a soft enough heart. And I encourage them to throw their life away. Not physical. No. That old simple nature, throw that life away because Christ will give you a new life. One that He will fulfill you in. That's Solomon's point. I'm not speaking of throwing your body away. I don't understand these people that kill themselves and want to kill themselves. If you're willing to throw your life away, I mean, I'd love to tell you about Jesus Christ. He's going to be really your ultimate fulfillment. Your real true hope. But if you're going to throw your life away, why don't you just up and move and start over? I mean, if you're willing to throw away your parents and cause that pain to your parents and your siblings and all those that love you, if you're really, truly ready to abandon them by killing yourself, why don't you just disappear and start your new life somewhere else? It'd be just as good as you died here, because that's the pain you're causing. I just don't get it. You're just not happy with this life. Just go start new then. I mean, really, just go somewhere far away and start new. Or better yet, come to Christ. He'll give you a new life. You show me somebody who realizes that their life is pointless and all their labor is vain. I'll show you somebody ready for Christ. Of course, Satan's going to be down there telling them, no, end it. There is no hope. And I'm going to be up here saying, no, Jesus Christ is your hope. What's the point of your stupid life? Your life ain't stupid. You're created in the image of God. You're valuable to God. And He'll give you a meaningful life. Without God, it is hopeless. Without God, it is vain. Without God, there is no reason to live. But with God, it all matters. When you find someone suicidal, it's because they see the pointlessness of life. They might be way far ahead of a lot of other people who's living in a fog and a cloud and a fantasy that they're somehow accomplishing something. They'll get to the end of their life and find out how feeble all their labor was. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 22 says that you put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. And you put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. I want you to put off the old man and put on the new man. I think baptism is great. Baptism is an action depicting the death of the old man, being buried with Christ and raised to a new life. I think it's important for people to have that to look at. And I say, look, you buried that old person. That's not who you are anymore, and you're raised to a new life with Christ. You ought to act like it. 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. We don't say dead anymore, we say passed away. Fair enough. Old things are passed away. Old things are dead to you. Old life is dead to you. Behold, all things become new. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that hears my word and believeth on him that sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation. He is passed from death unto life. Jesus answered and said, Verily, verily. In John 3, chapter 3, verse 3, he said, Verily, verily, I say to you, except a man be born again, he cannot see in the kingdom of God. So yes, die to your sins. God will want to point you down into sorrow and depression so you can see how meaningless life is without Him. No doubt Satan is there too, whispering in your ear to slay the body, but no, you don't slay the body. You slay the sin that lies upon your soul. You die to the world and you die to the sin. I don't question a person's depression. They just get to the point of understanding what they need to understand to really, truly accept the gospel, and I wish more people would get there. Life is hopeless without Christ. All your works is hopeless without doing it for the Lord. Everything you do that's not for the Lord is worthless. If you don't glorify God in something, it's pointless. It's meaningless. Solomon found that out. Every time he tried to fulfill himself, he got to the end of it and found it hopeless. We can get to the end, 2 verses. We'll look at the last 3 verses here. And we'll look at his conclusion. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. He just spent 12 chapters telling you how pointless life was and what his great conclusion was. Let us hear the conclusion of everything. Fear God and keep His commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. That's your duty. That's your job. That's the only thing you're going to find fulfillment in. Glorifying God. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. What are you living for? What is the purpose of life? There is no answer to that question that is adequate except one. Your purpose in life is to glorify God. That's it. Everything else is wasted. Every breath that you take that is not for the glory of God is wasted. It will flitter away like a vapor in the wind. Never be seen again. If you want your life not to be meaningless, then you need to live it for God. Paul's clear in the New Testament. Whatsoever you do it heartily as to the Lord, not unto men. Whatsoever you do, everything. Set your affections on things above, not on things below. Life is hopeless without Christ. The ultimate hope is Christ Himself. Take it from the wisest man to ever live. Fear God and keep His commandments. That's a good motto in your life. If you go to work, you go to work tomorrow for the Lord. If you clean up dog poop off the sidewalk, do it for the Lord. You fix a flat tire, do it for the Lord. If you, whatever you do it for the Lord. Everything in your life is going to pass away, and if it doesn't glorify God or didn't glorify God, it will truly pass away. Only what has done for God will remain. Are you throwing your life away? You know, all those people that I said you don't even know, and they died, and you don't know if they died wise or fools. You know, one of these days, everything they did, if they did it for the Lord, when you get into eternity and you stand before God, all those actions and all that they did for the Lord, it'll be there. All the stuff you did for yourself, the Bible calls wood, hay, and stubble, burn up, gone. Doesn't remain. What are you doing? Who are you doing it for? Are you truly a Christian? There's a lot of, I told you about that cowboy show, a little bit that they were watching. It's just, I don't know, cowboy contest or something, and you can tell the posers. There's posers. And one of my pet peeves is, man, I see posers and they wear the cowboy hat and the belt buckles, and I think, you ain't even been on a horse your entire life. You know, and they got, some of these other guys got a cowboy hat and belt buckles on, Like, you ain't even touched a cow. You're going to be a cowboy. And then, well, you see that in all walks of society. I know people that fancy themselves mixed martial artists. And I think, good night. You tap out if you get bit by 2 mosquitoes at the same time. It's just, you ain't and the posers. And then I see these Christians. They're just as much of posers as some of these other posers. They claim to be a Christian, but nothing in their life says that they're a Christian. They suffer nothing for the cause of Christ. They never give anybody the gospel. They just like the title, just like the MMA fighters like the title of MMA fighter. Just like those fake cowboys like the title of fake cowboy. Just like, I know mechanics that can't change their own oil, but they like to tell people they're wrench monkeys. It's a title they like to have and define themselves by, but they don't live up to it. And I know Christians who they don't live up to the title of Christian. Don't be that way. I don't want to be that way. You know how not to be that way? It's simple. Stop doing it for yourself. Do it for the Lord. Everything for the Lord. Let's pray. Precious Heavenly Father, I don't always know exactly how that I'm supposed to do some of the stuff I'm called to do for your glory. But in all things, I want to do it for your glory. In all the ways, I want to glorify you. I want you to truly be honored and glorified in my life, in this church. I know there are people here that understand what I'm talking about this morning, that doing things for themselves aren't fulfilling and they must do it for you. But if anybody here doesn't understand that, I pray that you'd hide that truth in their heart. I'd hate to see people live their life, get to the end of their life, and think back on it and how feeble and pointless it was, having never laid up any treasure in eternity. I look forward and I want to see people get to eternity and realize that all those hard times, all the trouble that they've endured, all the sacrifices they made, all the secret things that they did because it was the right thing to do and because they thought you wanted them to do it, that they are remembered in eternity forever by you. And that's the best person to remember it is you. So you are the best person to work for, you're the best person to have memories of what we do. I just hope that we honor you with our lives and that we understand and know better every day how to glorify you. We do love you dearly. I thank you for Jesus Christ. I thank you for the cross. I thank you for salvation that was wrought on there. And I know one of these days I might fully understand how much I owed and how much you paid. And I thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. 401. The song